My name is Jake, and I'm a member of New Zealand Christians in Science. I wanted to share my testimony and what NZCIS has meant for me. I was brought up in a church environment where science was pushed to the edge of the conversation. I remember asking how science fits into Christianity, and I was told that God had the power and the ability to make the world instantly, and therefore, if he could, and Scripture appears to suggest so, then we should believe in a young earth. There was something sad about this. In my childhood, I was so interested in geology, fossils, and dinosaurs, and it seemed to me that my view of the world shrunk when I learned that the Earth was young. I started to pore over websites, trying to understand how Scripture could explain physical reality. I began to see that all of the ideas presented online were contradicting each other and didn't really explain many of the things I saw around me. I remember doing a school speech about how animals couldn't have evolved. A teacher spoke to me afterwards and said that there were many Christians that believed in evolution and said that it was something I didn't need to be concerned about. This was quite confusing for me, and the first time I'd heard that it's okay as a Christian to believe in evolution. I then started my university studies in the sciences. The first lecture I had in biology began with a lecturer ridiculing Christians for what they believe and how his work on whale fossils proved beyond doubt that God did not make the world. This set science up against my faith and affirmed my negative perspective of the academy. Things began to change when I started to attend my childhood church again. The vicar was science literate, having previously lectured in maths in the UK. I remember one of the Christmas messages was about a new light having come, that light being the white LED as well as Jesus. He challenged me that I was wrong, and that he would show me how I was being led astray. Having this critique come from a Christian I respected helped me to work through the issues without losing my faith. I was directed towards Dr. Graham Finlay, the current co-director of NZCIS at the University of Auckland. Graham encouraged me in my faith first and foremost, and directed me to books that could encourage me. I remember being amazed that a university lecturer that believed in evolution could be so enthusiastic about Jesus and his faith. He showed me how beautiful the natural world is, and how God created the world. His work on viruses and how they contribute to our DNA was the final piece of evidence that swayed me towards believing in mainstream science. I realized that how we think about science is important, both for ourselves and for the sake of those around us. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Augustine of Hippo said that our view of science is important when he wrote, "Usually, even a non-Christian knows something about the earth, the heavens, and the other elements of the world, about the motion and orbit of the stars, and even their size and relative positions, about the predictable eclipses of the sun and moon, the cycles of the years and the seasons, about the kinds of animals, shrubs, stones, and so forth, and this knowledge he holds to as being certain from reason and experience. Now, it is a disgraceful and dangerous thing for a non-Christian to hear a Christian presumably giving the meaning of Holy Scripture talking nonsense on these topics, and we should take all means to prevent such an embarrassing situation in which people show up vast ignorance in a Christian and laugh it to scorn. The shame is that people outside the household of faith think our sacred writers held such opinions, and to the great loss of those whose salvation we toil. I realized that the book of God's works, the world, and God's words, Scripture, had to align. New Zealand Christians in Science was conceived following a discussion with Graham about having an organisation like the Christian Medical Fellowship that would allow Christians studying or working in the sciences to be encouraged in their faith. He introduced me to a theologian working on the intersection of science and faith, Dr. Nicola Hoggard-Cregan, who is now the other co-director of NZCIS, and together we started to think about creating our own. After emailing UK Christians in Science, they suggested we write a funding proposal for the World Templeton Foundation. The timing was perfect, with the foundation funding similar projects in Canada, Hong Kong, and Kenya. Since being founded in 2016, NZCIS has expanded to support Christians and anyone interested in science and faith. The success of the program is due to the volunteers and staff that have made this work so interesting, and the involvement of New Zealand's top scientists and theologians. I have seen how God has guided the organisation and continues to bless the work. Please join us and help more people experience the most majestic view of creation from the vantage point of a creator that came and died for all, revealing not only the beauty of his creation, but also his eternal plans.